Hey everybody, this is Yoda here coming to you from the homestead. Angela as well. Um, I had a few questions come in recently, and so some of you may know, some of you may not know. I'm a real estate agent here in our state, and I actually am a member of Red State Realtors with Shelby Gallagher and Glenn Tate on their list. And shout out to them. Thanks for the referrals. It's awesome. But I had a few questions come in. Somebody asked me, one of them was, what's your experience buying and selling rural homestead properties? And so here's my experience, and I think I may have touched on this before. So my experience is, one, I live on a homestead, knew what I was looking for, got a lot of advice from a lot of the people that live around us that I sell to. One of the things that I believe you want to look for is multiple exits. You know, sometimes when you get out into the country, if you only have one entrance in and out, couple different problems with that. If you have a bridge in heavy rain and that gets flooded, you're not going anywhere. If you're on a gravel road and it's snowing and icy, you're not going anywhere. Let's see some of the other things. We actually have set up on our property, and where we are located, we actually have 3 exits. So we have several different ways that we can come and go. One of the other things I like to look for is water sources. Big question I've seen out there several times is, how are homesteaders storing their water? There's a lot of issues on there if you're storing in gallon jugs. Some people say you can, most people say don't do it. The cement leaches the plastic, and it disflavors or causes that water to go bad, or just doesn't taste very good. So one of the things we did, we wanted to make sure, one, that we had a creek, and 2 reasons for that. 1, you can get water. 2, you've got deer running, so you can hunt and eat. One of the other things that we also looked for was ponds. We actually have 2 ponds on this property. So we have one up front, which a lot of times G likes to record from, and then we have one on the back of the property. That one, I think we're going to go ahead and get some work done on it to get a little bit deeper and stock that one with fish. Right now the deer bed down in it, so we haven't really been disturbing it too much, just because we really want to grow that food out here, let them produce, and make sure that we have enough food and options on our property. One of the other things that we tried to look for was the size of property, what kind of livestock that we could run on the property. We wanted to make sure that we had a wood source. We wanted to make sure that we had pasture source. So right now we're just utilizing the front of the property for food. That will expand. So we will start using the other side of the creek. We will start using that area. G and I talked last night. We're going to go ahead and cross fence. I think we're going to go ahead and pull some cattle out here and get that on the back of the property. The nice thing about that is we have plenty of natural hay back there. We have plenty of natural trees back there. So with the natural trees, that's going to cause some shade, so we don't have to worry about trying to build any shelter or anything like that out there. Should be fine, work out great, no problems. So I've also sold to several people. I've looked for these. I actually have a friend of ours that he was actually going to create an app. We keep trying to get him to finish it, and if he's watching, I wish he would finish this app. This app will actually grade your property, so he's almost complete with it. We just got to get it out there. So that will also help you and help me. One of the other things that we try to look for is storage. Storage, what kind of space do you have? So is there a basement? I know some areas don't have a basement. That's fine. Is there an area to put in some sort of outside building so that you have some extra space in there? Really important temperature control for your food storage. So you want to watch that. I also, and friends of ours, one of the things that we've talked about is walk-in coolers. So if you have space to put in a walk-in cooler down the road, doesn't have to be right now. If you have space to put in a walk-in cooler, it might be kind of nice to do something like that. Then you can just process your meat and throw it in the cooler and keep that. let's see, temperature storage. We try to keep everything around 68 degrees. We were real lucky. We have a basement here, and we were able to figure out how to get that temperature controlled and how to utilize that space a little bit better. So we've got that, have that experience. And then, I think I've said it earlier in one of my videos, we have a large Mormon population here, large prepsteaders, large homesteaders, and farmers. So a lot of the things that I've learned through them. So it's really important just to get with like-minded people. It's important to talk to people, try to be personable, find groups, that kind of thing. They'll educate you, and they'll educate you pretty fast. A lot of people like to teach and share. I'm not going to say that everybody knows it all. We also keep bees, and one of the funny things that I always say is that you can ask 10 beekeepers the same question, and you're going to get 15 different answers. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of life. What you do is you take what works for you and run with it. Having an agent, though, that knows property and knows that lifestyle is pretty darn important. You also want an agent that knows the area. So how does that community look? How does that community operate? What are the politics in that community? What does that look like? Are the schools that are in that community, if you're not homeschooling and you're thinking you're going to do public school, what do those schools teach in their classroom? How do they allow parent involvement? Because I always thought it was very important to be involved in my kids' education. Funny story on that in another video. It's very important to be involved. It's very important to be involved in your local politics, know what's going on in your community. One, it helps you out because you're going to get first word if something goes wrong. Two, it helps you out because if you have a business in that area or you're doing something, along those lines, you want to know who your city officials are. You want to know who your county officials are. You want to know where you can get information on several different aspects. It's good to know a lot of people because then when property comes up for sale, then we have an idea first before a lot of other people do. So sometimes we'll already have buyers lined up for that. So when you think things are going to stay around for a few days, especially when you're looking at homestead properties, they don't last very long, not at all. We actually have learned today through somebody at a meeting today, anybody looking to come to my area, there's 60 acres coming up for sale, but I also have to get ready to make a phone call because I think I have a buyer for that one. So that kind of thing. My experience is my experience. It's real life experience along with teaching other people, walking with clients on property and acreage, learning what they're wanting to do. Of course, you want different acreage for cattle, different acreage for farming, a lot of different things. So it's good to get some knowledge yourself, but again, also great to get a real estate agent that knows what they're talking about, isn't a shark and just going to sell you whatever because they want to make some money. The last thing I want to do is to put you into a property and 6 months later there's torrential rain and you have a flood. So make sure that real estate agent also goes in there and looks at the flood zone. They usually are, I know I am, they usually know an insurance agent. I have a go-to that I can call and say, hey, can you look this up? I need flood zone. What does the insurance look like? That kind of thing. Also good to know if a property is uninsurable, which brings me to our next question. And that was, what does the market look like to you as a real estate agent now and in 6 months? That's a hard question. So depending on where you're at and what area you're at, real estate's hard to come by. Other places, there's a lot of real estate out there. It just depends on that type of property that you're looking for. Pretty much you can find anything in the city. It doesn't mean it's going to be on the market very long. My goodness, I had a contract on one I wrote an offer on one, and I was one of 10 offers, and 3 of those offers were talking with another agent. I know mine was $35,000 over ask. Another agent was $45,000 over ask. We had an escalation clause of $1,500 over the highest bid. She had an escalation clause of $3,500 over the highest bid. Neither one of us got it. 3 out of those 10 waived appraisals and promised to come in with the cash difference afterwards. So the market right now, it's hard. It's difficult. There are more buyers in the market than there is inventory, and that's part of the problem. The other issue is we have different companies coming in, conglomerates. One of those said companies, we'll leave their name out of it. One of those said companies got over $1 trillion of our tax-paying money to buy properties up and rent them out. So you're also competing with that. So they are using taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Biden administration. They are using taxpayer dollars to compete with taxpayers for housing. So you have that issue. That being said, right now they're not really coming after the large properties. I would say anything 5 acres and over. I haven't really seen them coming after those. They're going more after all of the homes that are, well, here anyway in our state and the state next door. They're going more after everything 250,000 and below, which stinks because that puts all the first-time home buyers out of business. So it's a battle, it's a fight. It's when we're going to have to just suck up and we're going to have to make it through. There was actually something I was told not too long ago. There are actually more real estate agents right now in our country than there are houses for sale. So if you're looking to get in the real estate business, you might think about doing something else. It's difficult right now. It's really hard. So that being said, another question that came in is how does this affect anyone looking for a rural homestead property? Well, we just kind of went over that. So you need to be ready. You need to go ahead, get pre-approved. You need to know what you're looking for. If you want a homestead property that has a house on it, you're going to be okay. You may have to fix it up. You decide whether you like the property or the house. Most homestead properties, it's one or the other. You're never going to find both. And if you do find both, you're going to pay north of $500,000. For a lot of people, and they would say no big deal, especially if you're selling from the East Coast or West Coast. In the Midwest, it doesn't work that way. So a lot of us don't have that option to just go ahead and you guys know if you're looking at homesteading, you don't spend everything you have, and definitely the last thing you want to be is house poor because it costs money to homestead. You've got animals, you've got vet bills if you need them or emergency comes up, you've got feed bills, there's all kinds of stuff. So we don't throw away that money, and it could just be our household. It doesn't matter, just however. I don't like to make people house poor. It makes me sick. I would rather them go ahead and just garden and get their food going and be ready and be prepared. So there's that. It's kind of how that's going to affect you, which means it's going to be difficult to find something. And again, going back, there are more real estate agents, more buyers than there are homes for sale. So, especially with land. So that kind of stinks. And if there is something that comes up, right now there's 60 acres that is close by to us. Well, kind of close by to us, and that 60 acres is for sale. It's got a house that needs to be fixed up, and it's $900,000. So things like that. That's kind of what you're hitting, and that's kind of what you're coming up against. That being said, I also was able to find one of our fellow homesteaders. I was able to find them property moving farther south. Once we did that, I was able to find them 15 acres, operational berry farm. High tunnel, had the outbuilding already built, decent house. They had to sacrifice a lot of space, so they moved from, I think it was 2,300 square feet, something like that, down to 1,300 square feet. No, had a basement at one, no basement at this one. So there are sacrifices that you're going to have to make. You just need to decide how bad you want it. So one of the other questions that came up was financing. Financing is very important. So kind of leading off of where I wanted a couple questions ago. The financing is a little difficult and something that you need to understand. If you want vacant land, that is a totally different loan. So your vacant land, if you're willing to start fresh, and sometimes that's a little bit easier to find than one with a house on it and ready to go. If you're going to start with vacant land, you need to do something different. You need more of a farm commercial loan. You're going to have to put 25% of that loan down or be able to come in all cash, because then it doesn't matter and you don't need financing. So there's that, and there's only a few banks. You probably need to go more of a private bank to see if they would do that. Some banks around here, I'm not going to say a lot, some banks around here, they won't touch them. They won't do anything. Other banks, that's pretty much all they do is farm and commercial. So there is one, two, three, I think a handful around here that I usually use, and it's very interesting, but always the same 25% down. So you're going to need that cash up front. So know what you're coming with, be prepared, have it in the bank account. You need it about 30 days before you close, so that you can prove, to the bank that yes, you have it in there. Yes, you can afford it. If there's a house on it, you can kind of do something different. So depending on the condition of the house, you could do a VA loan, you could do an FHA loan. In some rural areas where the population is lower, we have that out here, you can do what's called a USDA loan. So a USDA loan, it's capped on how much money that you can make per year. And I forget what it is. I think a family of four, I think it just went up to 82,000. I could be off on that. Maybe I'll recheck it. Well, if you have a question about that and you really want to know, I'll call my lender and just ask in the comments down below, and I'll send it back to you and give you that answer. I think it's like 84,000 for a family of four. So the more kids you have in the house, then your salary can go up a little bit. Now, what that does, that USDA loan, works a lot like a VA loan. It's zero money down. So your credit score, however, needs to be a certain amount, and your debt to income ratio needs to be a certain amount. Same way as FHA. That's usually found when you get a hold of your lender. They'll plug it into the computer. We call it GUS, the system. They'll plug it into GUS, and then they can tell you exactly how much you're approved for. They can tell you what you can do, how much you need to bring to the table, that kind of thing. FHA. And FHA is also a government-backed loan, USDA government-backed loan, and VA is a government-backed loan. So the FHA usually is about 3 to 3.5% down, depends on what bank you work with. Closing costs are a little bit higher on that. So you would want to make sure that you ask for closing costs from the sellers in this market. It's very difficult. I'm finding a hard time getting people that want to pay closing costs. So, that being said, again, you need to make sure that you have money in the bank and that you're taking care of that. USDA, you're also, all loans, you're going to have closing costs. So you just need to figure out from the lender how much those are going to be. Your agent should be able to get with that lender, know exactly how much you need, and be able to try to figure out how to get you that. A lot of times what we've been doing is offering over asking price and then pad that in. So basically you're financing your closing costs. Yeah, it totally sucks. But as long as it appraises, it's fine. The last thing I want to do is put anybody into a home that doesn't appraise and tell you to bring cash. I just think that's wrong. So just me. Then let's see. What questions should a buyer be looking for a rural homestead property? Ask their real estate agent. Again, we kind of went over that. So what I want you to do, you're going to ask your real estate agent about the community. What are the politics in the community? How do the schools deal with parents getting involved? I feel like I'm repeating myself. I think it did answer that question. So those are the questions that you want to ask. Be frank with them and just ask them straight out. How many rural properties have you actually sold? How many homesteaders do you work with? What do you know about soil testing? What do you know about the greatest soil? Do you know how to find that greatest soil? Guys, it's really easy. It's on county records and it's all public. So if an agent doesn't know that, you don't want to use them. Let's see, there's also a few other things. Oh, that being said, disclaimer, not all properties have soil testing. That's mostly your farms. And you can look up and see what the different grades are. So each one means a different thing. You can do some research on that on your own. I have to try to keep this down a little bit. I think there was another question in there. Let's see what I've got here. Yeah, we did that one. No, guys, I think that about covers it. Again, like I said, I don't know what the market's going to look like in 6 months. It's difficult right now. I remember this market back in the late 80s, early 90s in California. And that was very difficult to watch. And it was difficult to watch my mom and dad have to deal with that. So it was really weird. It seemed like everything was normal. And then people started having, a few issues and needed to sell. My folks, they actually just decided to move back to the Midwest. So they sold their house. And the house that they sold for 150,000, something like that, I think, in California. And that house actually now is worth almost $1 million. So this is kind of what I'm seeing. So we paid X amount for our house and our property. And the way that the market is going, we can at least get twice, 3 times possibly more than what we paid. So kind of crazy out there. I don't know, but the last thing I want to do with the knowledge that I have, a lot of people are just selling and then going to rent. Part of the problem is if prices keep going up, what are you going to be able to afford at that time? And if you can find something, because companies are buying everything up and forcing them to be rentals, and our government's helping them do it with taxpayer dollars. That should make you sick. Look it up. I'm not kidding. And there's also another group that we've seen a lot of their offers come through, especially in the last 2-3 years. And they were doing the same thing. They were buying everything they possibly could up under $200,000 at that time, and they turned them all into rentals. Now, guys, these people are buying entire subdivisions. They are buying entire neighborhoods. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And man, it's tough. It's absolutely tough. We made it very important this year to make sure that all of our kids got into homes and bought them. Friends of ours, children, made sure they got into homes and bought them. We don't know what's coming. I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't tell you. I don't think anybody can. I will tell you this, we've heard from several different people that know the market, and that's their business, is real estate. A lot of people are saying it's just going to get tougher. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to check out, and I've got some stuff to do, and I hope I didn't bore you with this video. It just, somebody made me get on here and do this. I don't even know if you guys care. You might. So anyway, look up Red Estate Realtors, and you can find me there. You can also find me if you just plug everything up. Then not just me. And if you need a referral to a real estate agent that knows rural properties and knows homestead properties, they're out there. So you can look up Red State Realtors is still relatively new. I'm not sure how many of us are in there, trying to get everybody in each state, and several people in there. So if you can't find somebody, or you're like, I just don't want to do the homework about it, I'm just going to go ahead and get a hold of Yoda, you can ask me down below. I would be glad to connect with you, and we can chat a little bit of what you're looking for, what you're wanting, and I can put a referral out to make sure that you're getting with an agent in your state, and this can be any state, an agent in your state that knows what they're doing. So basically, I interview them, find out what they know, make sure that they can help you. You're just not going to get any, you don't want a city agent showing you rural properties. Let's just put it that way. So, there's that. That's just my opinion. So, all right, guys. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe. We've got stuff like this coming out all the time. Feel free to comment below. There's a few things. I know this is probably going to bring up more questions. I don't mind answering them. So just let me know. And anybody, like I said, that needs a referral to an agent, let me know. I'll be glad to do that for you. And yeah, we can get you set up on your own homestead, and you'd start living a life free. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Okay, guys, checking out. Thanks.
Thanks, Milo.